Thanks for tuning in with us at Linode. We'll be running through the Securing Your Server guide. The first thing that's important to do is to update your server, and you'd want to do this one frequently. There's different steps for each distribution that you'd be running, and we'll be running through this one with the Ubuntu steps. It's as simple as running the apt-get update and apt-get upgrade commands. Once that's done, you'll now have updated packages. This is important to ensure that you're using the latest packages and security updates. The next step that we want to do is add a limited user account. This will ensure that you're using a user that's not root. Using the root user is very useful and very powerful. You can create any files that you'd like, and you can delete any files that you like. With that much power, anyone who can accidentally sign into your server can perform anything. We want to limit that. There's different steps for the distributions that you're using. As stated before, we're running this one with the Ubuntu steps. Once that's updated, you can then enter in each of the information required, or you can just hit enter to skip through it. You'll then want to add that user to the sudo group. It's as simple as running add user, the username that you've just created, and sudo at the end. Now let's sign into that user. Run the exit command, sign back in, but with the username that you just created. Type in the password, and you're in. Now that you have another user set up, you're going to want to harden your SSH access. One thing you may want to do is create an authentication key pair. There's different steps depending if you're using Linux and Mac or if you're using Windows. As stated before, we're running through this with Mac. If you need the instructions for the Windows steps, you can find them on the Securing Your Server guide. First, you want to make sure if you already have an RSA key pair set up. You'll find that in your user's ID_RSAs file. If not, you can just run the command ssh-keygen-b 4096 and hit enter. Of course, I already have one set up, so by running that again, I'll delete what I have. Now, if you verified that you do not have that key set up, you can go ahead and set it up right now. You'll just run the command ssh-keygen-b 4096. Now make sure you're running that key generator on your local computer. Hit enter, and it will ask you what file to save the key. You can just hit enter again, and it will allow you to... If you don't have anything set up yet, it will automatically create the file for you. If you have something set up, it'll ask you if you want to overwrite it. If you're sure of this, hit yes. You now have the option to add a passphrase. It's not necessary, and you can either leave it empty and hit enter, or you can go ahead and type something in, so every time that you sign in, you'll need that passphrase. Now that that's complete, you'll go back to your local computer, and you'll want to type in the command that I'm typing onto the screen now. Now make sure to change the IP address and user to match yours. Once you hit enter, it's going to ask you for your user for your Linode server. Hit enter to complete that. Now let's try signing out of the server and signing back in to see if any changes were made. As you can see, you can sign in without the need for your password now. Now that you have the RSA key pairing set up within your server and your local computer, we can go ahead and make some changes to the SSH daemon. You'll find your settings for your SSH within the /etc/ssh/sshd_config file. You can use nano to sign in. From within here, you can see all the settings for the SSH daemon. You can see the port that you're using. You can see permit root login. You can see your passwords, where your RSA keys are stored. In particular, the permit root login is interesting. Keeping it at yes will allow anyone to sign into your root user. However, setting it to no will then prevent anyone from signing into your server using the root user. Another thing you want to keep an eye out for is the password authentication. It's currently set to yes, which allows anyone to sign into your server using your user with the correct password. Changing it to no, however, will stop anyone from using a password to authenticate themselves. This means the only person who can sign into your server at this point will be you from your local computer due to that RSA key created earlier. You can also change the internet protocol that your server listens on. whether IPv4 or IPv6, but we won't be running through that with this guide. You can now save your changes by hitting Ctrl X, hitting Y for yes. The changes have not taken place just yet. You'll need to restart the SSH daemon service. To do that, since we're using Ubuntu 14.04, we'll run sudo service ssh restart. With that set, you can ensure that your root user is now disabled and the only person who can sign in is you from your computer with that user that you've set up. Another step you could take to help protect against anyone signing into your server is using fail2ban. Fail2ban is a service that will watch your server for any failed sign-in attempts. Once a certain number of failed attempts has been hit, it'll lock that IP out. It's not perfect, but it's definitely very helpful. Another step worth taking is checking what running services you have on your server that's listening right now. You can just run the command sudo netstat-tulpn. This will show you everything that's currently listening. On my screen you can see not very much is happening. Just the SSHD service is currently up and running. If there are things here that you see that you are unaware of or are very sure that are running malicious content, you can go ahead and remove the service. Depending on the distribution you're running, this can be different. For Ubuntu, we just run sudo apt-get purge and the program name. That'll show you how to create firewall rules, how to delete them, and it'll even give you a good template to how to get started with IP table rules. Another thing to keep in mind when considering the security of your server is setting up proper firewall rules. Depending on how your server is set up, you may want different kind of rules than another server. However, we do provide an easy to use template within our Securing Your Server guide. We won't be running through IP table rules as it deserves its own video. However, we do cover it within our Securing Your Server guide, so I do recommend giving it a look. Thank you for tuning in with us, and this was Securing Your Server.